Today we are doing a 2025 NFL mock draft. I am joined with Trevor Sikkema. Say hi to the people, and you have the number one pick.
I do. What's going on? It's great to be on the channel. This is going to be a lot of fun going through a first round mock draft with you. Okay, so before we start out, I'll start out with the odds because you said I'm starting out with the Titans. Is this a what I would do mock, or are we trying to
What do you want to
predict
do?
what would happen? Okay, so it's what we would do.
Dude, if you try to predict it, it's going to be so chalked up and
Probably. You're right.
I'm bringing you on for the vibes, man.
That's fair. I just got to look. There's two different ways to do a mock draft, so I just had to know up front. Number one, my answer would be the same here at number one overall, and that's simply because the Titans have nothing at quarterback. Cam Ward is not my number one overall player in this class. I wish that I could sit here and take Travis Hunter, but the fact that the only quarterback on their roster right now is basically just Will Levis, they have to take somebody else. And so Travis Hunter is my number one overall player. I think he's the best player in this class, but the Titans have to take a quarterback, and with their current situation, it would be irresponsible for me to not take Cam Ward, who I still think has an all-pro type of a ceiling to him. The floor is a little bit lower than you would want it to be for a number one overall pick quarterback, but I'm going to go Cam Ward here at number one overall. I think this is the way that the draft goes, and this is what I would do as well.
So I got to ask you a question. So when evaluating your board, because I assume, is this your board specifically?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I was making sure that's a direct reflection. How do you evaluate positional value for quarterbacks?
I think it's naive to not use positional value at all whatsoever.
Right.
But I also don't go crazy with it. A project that I have over at PFF that I would like to do, I just ran out of time to do it this year, is to do a specific positional value big board where I'm sort of taking what I would naturally have as my big board. And then over at PFF, this isn't a public thing. You don't get this with a PFF Plus subscription, but teams get this by using PFF Ultimate. We have a data metric called WAR,
Wins above replacement. Yeah.
Right. Wins above replacement, wins above average. You can call it Y as well. And it's basically sort of what it's been in baseball for many years. So I sort of want to take film grades, numerical film grades that I have on these prospects, take athletic grades, and then throw in sort of a multiplier for our wins above average that we have for different tiers of positions. Like if you are an elite quarterback, a good quarterback, a decent quarterback, a low tier quarterback, and sort of have different values and multipliers to come up with a positional big board. But until we get to that point, my board's a little bit of a hybrid. Sure. I have Cam Ward as, I think, my number 18 overall player. He's top 20.
I think it was 20, but 20 or 21.
Wherever it is, he's somewhere around there. A lot of that is with quarterback value built into him. And I think the same with Shedeur Sanders. I would have Shedeur Sanders a little bit lower than where I have him on the board. And so it is a little bit of a boost up for the quarterback position, just because I feel like it wouldn't be fair to how the game is played if you didn't take positional importance into account. So I'm a little less than some people, but I'm a little more than others. I try to have a little bit of a hybrid with it.
I like that. I mean, for me, so I do my own numerical scale on the side as well, and I've been messing around with positional value and seeing how that reflects my rankings as well on my big board. So it's certainly something that is a lot harder than what comes to mind. And do you think that there could be a point of over-analysis when it comes to the draft? By the way, I'm going to be going Abdul Carter here for the Cleveland Browns. I think Travis Hunter should be at least in contention for it, but I genuinely fear Abdul Carter times Myles Garrett.
And it's insane. That duo is nuts.
It's kind of ridiculous. And I mean, I do think that there are plenty of role-playing receivers that could make an impact down the line to where I don't feel the loss of Travis Hunter as much as I could with the potential of what Abdul Carter could bring with that defensive front. But you're back up on the clock.
I'm taking Travis Hunter here. You were on a roll with a question, and I wonder if you remember what it was before you picked up Abdul Carter. So maybe it'll come to you in a couple of picks. Because I felt like you were about to ask a heater. I felt like it was about to be a good caution. Yeah. I'm going to take Travis Hunter here for the New York Giants. In my world, there's no way in this current quarterback class, even with the quarterback needs of these three teams, that Travis Hunter should get beyond the top three. To me, he is one of the most special football players that we have seen in the NFL draft over the last 10 years, and I genuinely mean that. I mean, he does not get enough credit for as great of an athlete as he is, for his creative instincts that he has, for as physically gifted of a player as he is for both the cornerback and the wide receiver position, he does not get enough credit for how high of a football IQ he has. You don't have the success level that he does at both positions just because you're athletic. You do it because he sees the game before it even plays out. Like he can anticipate unbelievably well. Those instincts for both positions are so, so, so good. I just continue to be unbelievably impressed by who he is as a football player. So for the Giants, the fact that they at least have Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston on the roster, go pair Travis Hunter and Malik Neighbors as well. You know, you talked about the pairing of Abdul Carter and Myles Garrett.
Yep.
To have Travis Hunter and Malik Neighbors on the field at the same time at the wide receiver spot, that's incredibly impactful, especially when you throw in there like a Tyrone Tracy, somebody who is emerging out of that backfield and an explosive player. You've got some other weapons to be wide receiver 3 and wide receiver 4. At least it'll be fun, especially if you start Jameis and he's just chucking the football everywhere with those two guys.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I'm just happy to see that we can end up experimenting what happens at number 4, which is my least favorite outcome, seeing how, I want to talk with you a little bit about this. But I did remember. I was getting onto a roll because we were talking about how, like, you're adding in wins above replacement and all this other aspect to a grading system. Is there a point of overanalysis to where you kind of, rather than simplifying it as, hey, these guys play really damn good football, I like them as a player, it's a good position, that we start getting almost too analytical?
Yeah, sometimes. And I haven't always worked at PFF. I started my career at Pewter Report covering the Buccaneers, and then I worked at the Draft Network. And even before that, like, I did my own draft analysis. I made my own very elementary draft website where I got to post my rankings and things like that. So I didn't come up in this world where I've always had all of this data to be able to sort of contextualize prospects. And so it's been fun for me. I've been at PFF for now 3 years. Every year I learn a little bit more about how to use the data correctly. And I think that it is always worth asking yourself the question, am I focusing on these numbers too much? We love the data, and I think the data can do a great job of telling the story, but it's your job to sort it in a certain way. You can't allow the data to just all, like, without context, speak without having a sort of like mode or lane in which it's actually speaking something to you. So, when you look at things like in-game athleticism score, when you look at separation percentile, when you look at things like that, do you naturally see those numbers show up rep to rep when you're watching them on tape? And I think that sometimes there can be a little bit of this over analysis because you do, we are coming up with these numbers as a part of a formula that we think is as accurate as we could possibly make it towards the game. But even with that being the case, sometimes you're, tweaking that a little bit here and there, year to year, and you're trying to make sure that you're getting it right at all times. And the reason why is because of, I think, the question that you're asking. Are we overanalyzing something? Are we underanalyzing something? And so just to overall get back to what you said, there is a world where you can overanalyze a player. And I think that scouts and general managers sometimes try to find the beauty in data, and then certainly just like that I'll call it old school method of scouting.
Right.
And I think the front office staffs and the scouting staffs that are the best are the ones that blend that well to how they see players. Because you got to remember that too. One of the reasons why we didn't get to the positional big board is because a project that we're releasing over the next couple of weeks we're doing team-centric top 100s. We're going to be releasing big boards.
That's the dream. Yep.
And so like that's where we're trying to do that this year, where we go like, okay, like, does this player fit what this team wants to do? And so it's, a little bit up and down and things like that. And so that's where you really start to eliminate, in my opinion, that overanalysis.
Right.
Because the more context you have on a player, the more confident you can be in how you apply the data to what you would see from a film evaluation. Right. And that's where you start to eliminate some of that overanalyzing, when you know so well what a team might be going for, what they've gravitated towards in the past, what do they prioritize: production, size, athleticism, experience, all that kinds of stuff. So we're starting that project this year to hopefully answer that question and eliminate that question of, are we overanalyzing these guys?
I love that. And honestly, I do think that people have gotten so data centric to where we see this in the combine. Instantly, a guy runs a 4.4 people are going to be throwing out the tape essentially. Like you look at the combine monsters, it's like, okay, let's push this guy way higher than where, his actual tape ended up suggesting. And then of course you add in all these other analytics with analytical people. I can definitely see how it can end up being almost an issue rather than actually an assistant. But for New England here, I've heard a couple things. I know McShay's talking about how there's still some more rumblings, and it's actually even growing larger and larger about Will Campbell. I know he ended up measuring in at 33 inches at his pro day. We'll call that measure gate at combine. That's kind of crazy how that ended up playing out. But
I kind of hate that for us, right? I mean, like, if you can't trust the combine, what can you trust?
Oh my God. I literally lost all confidence in the Senior Bowl for a minute just because of the fact that I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And it's the combine that messes up? I'm like, are you serious? I talked to
because wait, was it the Senior Bowl that had these guys
a little bit longer?
Right? Okay. Yeah. So, and this, I believe the Senior Bowl has scouts do it.
Yeah, I believe so. Right.
The combine has their own staff who does it. And then pro days have scouts who do it. So, yeah, man. I mean, the combine's supposed to the combine is supposed to be the be all end all for what the measurements are. Like you get to the combine, that is what your official measurements are. So, we got to figure this out, NFL. Come on. We need this.
What year was that? I think it was the Chris Olave year where they ended up messing up on the 40 times, like drastically the timer.
Oh, yeah.
It was like a 4.33 for him. And I'm like, ooh, or like it was like a 4.28 or something. It was crazy. But back to from MeasureGate, like, are you looking at Will Campbell here, or is there another position that you think like the Patriots, if you were to give a top 3 of what the Patriots should be looking at here, because I think the biggest curveball would be Ashton. Yeah. Which is, I mean, I don't know if I haven't heard you talk about Ashton, so I'm curious what your thoughts would be on that. And then outside of that, maybe Tet. I know we both love Tet.
Yeah. My 3 for them would be McMillan, Campbell, and Armand Membu, honestly.
Ooh, yeah, Membu's a good one.
Just because I think they need offensive line so badly, right? And I love the idea of Campbell here. If I was making this pick, it would be between Campbell and McMillan. I think that Campbell is good enough to play offensive tackle at the NFL level. I think he's good enough to play guard. Hell, I think he can play center. So on a team that very desperately needs offensive line upgrades, no matter what, I think that this should be very well within the realm of possibility. So I think Campbell makes a lot of sense for them at 4.
Yeah, I mean, that checks out. Sometimes you just have to get a hit. I know when I was talking to Mike Renner last week, he was saying reminds him a lot of Brandon Scherf early on. Like, even if he ended up being a guard, the goal was essentially to, I think he was picked at number 5, basically get the best player and just like get somebody that's going to be successful. And I want to hear if you saw this as well. One of my biggest concerns with Will Campbell is how he almost drifts too far away from the pocket and he allows a lot of inside moves. Like whether it was like Quay Robinson or, I mean, there's a multitude of players I could end up mentioning in that group. But like, what are your thoughts on his biggest weaknesses outside of his arm length? Because this is probably the main player in the top 5 that has a lot of negative buzz on him.
Yeah, I think you pointed out well. I mean, sometimes he can overset, and the reason why you overset the guys that are trying to hit your outside shoulder, especially guys that can win with speed and length, which is often the case at the NFL level. What you're worried what if you're Will Campbell, if you don't have the arm length to be able to fully extend and make contact with them as they're threatening that outside shoulder, well, then you have to make sure that you beat them to that spot. So then if you do that, like you said, you're oversetting a little bit. And if you have a length disadvantage to the outside, then you also have that same length disadvantage when you're trying to recover to the inside. So it's more just he's got to be on his P's and Q's, because I think the footwork is fast. I don't think he has the longest sort of like stretch and stride. Sure. So those feet, they fire more like quick pistons than they do like long sliding stride lengths. Yeah. It's just with Campbell, I think we go about this conversation wrong with Campbell. I think a lot of people do. It's not that he can't play tackle at the NFL level. It's just that his margin for error is larger than it is for other guys who have more of a plus with size and length, because they can get away with it more when they mess up. Campbell just doesn't have that luxury of messing up like that. Now, there have been great offensive linemen in the past who are not super long. Joe Thomas is obviously the gold standard that everybody points to. Rashawn Slater was kind of another one, right? Where these guys have made it work because they anticipate so well, because they're film junkies, because they're never really out of position. You don't really have that opportunity to beat them. And the way that Campbell talks about the game, I've listened to a couple interviews for him of him. I think that he can be somebody who is that kind of true student and get his master's degree of offensive tackle play, if you will. So that's really how we need to talk about that. It's not like, well, he doesn't have long arms, so he can't play the position. Yes, he can. He has for the last 3 years. He's been one of the best tackles in college football over the last 3 years. The way we need to talk about it is his margin for error is just like it's smaller in a sense where if he messes up, it could be detrimental. Where for other guys that have better size, maybe it's not. So to me, that's the conversation about Will Campbell. It's not a matter of can he play left tackle, can he not? He can play it. We've seen it for the last 3 years in the SEC. It's just a matter of can he anticipate well enough, and is he a film junkie enough to not be put in bad positions when he gets to the pros?
Right. I mean, to kind of to almost provide a counterpoint that supports the pro tackle theory, we see his movement skills. They're excellent. So it's almost maybe something that will be learned over time, which, again, he has a lot of experience. But, I mean, I feel like if you are oversetting because you have that, call it insecurity based on your ability, your perimeter, or your boundary of actual effectiveness, like, I do think that that's something that with time, with proper coaching, not saying, oh, LSU can't coach, but like, I think it's something that could improve because he has the skill set to be able and the physical foundation to be able to counter and do it the right way. But just like devil's advocate there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're up, my friend.
Oh, right. I'm up. Jags at 5.
What are the legit options outside of Mason Graham here? That's like a question I ask myself.
Tet and Membu.
Yeah.
Again. Because if you draft Tet, then you can basically do whatever you want with Brian Thomas Jr., right? You could play him in the slot at any point in time, which the team has already talked about. They want to use him not just as an outside receiver. They want to use him in the slot. They want to use him as a Z. You now have the luxury to be able to do that if you draft Tet McMillan.
Sure.
Even in 2 wide receiver sets, you could put him basically anywhere. So I think that is very alluring to me because I don't think that it takes away from Brian Thomas Jr. because then you have Tet, you have Brian Thomas, and then you basically, depending on whatever your favorite option is, you have Diami Brown, you have Gabe Davis, you have Parker Washington. So whoever you want your wide receiver 3 to be that week, if you want it to be more of a vertical stretching game plan that week, you play Diami Brown and you play Gabe Davis. If you want it to be more of quick hit over the middle stuff, if you don't think their linebackers can cover super well, if you don't think they have a robber safety, you could play Parker Washington on top of those 2 guys. So
yeah,
I think Tet does make sense for the Jags, even though I don't see it a lot. And then Membu simply should be in the conversation because this regime didn't draft Anton Harrison or sign Walker Little, right? I mean, you can look at that and say like, no, they have those 2 guys, but it's a completely new regime. They didn't draft or sign either of those 2 players.
True.
So I think he's in the conversation there.
I mean, on top of that, you also have your backup offensive lineman as Javon Foster. You have instant chemistry in case you do have to have both the Missouri guys go up and actually play. So it's not like a big factor. I would never say that's a differentiator. But something I wanted to ask you is because Gladstone and Cohn are both new.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that this pick is going to be a Gladstone pick or a Cohn pick? I feel like if it's Cohn, it's going to be McMillan. I feel like that body type and the role that you can see with his game can project pretty well. If it's Gladstone, you see Fisk, you see Aaron Donald. He understands the value, even at an undersized defensive interior.
Yeah. I think it's going to be Gladstone.
Yeah.
If I had to say, which I'm going to go with Mason Graham here. Okay. I know it's a little chalky.
Yeah.
I am tempted by Tet. I really am.
The question,
in my opinion, they could get like a Jaden Higgins or an Alec Iomaner or a Trey Harris if they wanted to somewhere later.
Sure.
but they could also get, because they already have Arik Armstead, they have Josh Hines Allen,
Mm-hmm.
they have Trayvon Walker, they even have Mason Smith.
Right. Former second round pick.
So I think we're all gravitating towards Mason Graham.
Yeah.
It's not like,
I mean, similarly, I would like to say, because you ended up bringing up how the last regime were the ones to sign / attain the tackles, they also were the ones to draft the defensive interiors. So I don't know if there's going to be over loyalty to the exact capital spent
that's
on
true
the
too.
defensive line based on them just coming in.
You know what? Let's go Ted.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Okay.
let's switch it up. Let's switch
Okay.
it up.
Well, I mean, you just threw me a curveball right now because I'm just debating like Adam Butler paired up with Mason Graham and who I'm tripping. Who else is there? Clemson.
Oh,
Guy.
Christian Wilkins.
Christian Wilkins. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I had Dexter Lawrence's name stuck in my head, but I mean that'd be a nasty front for Pete Carroll to have.
Oh,
I know the common answer is Ashton Genty. I'll ask you this question: how close do you think they could be to competing? Because I don't know if you are like if you're more than a full draft away from being at least legitimately competitive, not like actually going to the Super Bowl, but you know, you're in the playoffs, giving guys a tough challenge. I don't think a running back this high can net positive for you, because then you're just centering yourself, like my Steelers unfortunately have been, in this center of mediocrity that it's hard to really push yourself further.
I don't know if it's the right decision to pick Ashton Genty, but I will tell you that I could fully understand why they would
Yeah.
do it. Because not only is he a really good football player, you want to look at the timeline of this team. Pete
Yeah.
Carroll's 73 years old. Like, he's not going to be coaching that much longer, I don't think. You just traded for and signed Geno Smith to a little 2-year extension. You didn't trade for him just to rebuild half the time he's there. You are hitting the gas pedal. So unless you feel great about drafting one of these really nice running backs at the top of the second round, if you draft Genty, it completely changes your offense. Because the other thing about the Raiders is it's not just like, oh, this is sort of like a luxury to pick Ashton Genty. They have no running back. They have Raheem Mostert. Okay, whatever. They have Sincere McCormick, and then they have Zamir White.
Right.
Ashton Genty would get 300 carries next year if he's their starting running back.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely.
So, I don't know about 300, but you know what I mean.
Like, I know what you mean. It's going to be a massive
he
share.
would be
You're
an
going to be Marshawn
offensive,
Lynch.
he would be an offensive identity piece for them.
Right.
So again, to me, it comes down to they're not going to go into next year with just Raheem Mostert.
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah.
So are they taking Genty at 6?
Or
are they drafting Quinshad Judkins, Travion Henderson, Omarion Hampton, Caleb Johnson, whoever it is at the top of the second round? I don't know.
Oof. See, we have Chip Kelly there. That's why I feel like they could opt to do that. But again, you talk about the importance of Ashton Genty. Now, I have to ask you one question, because Mike ended up taking this guy in our mock draft. He went Armand Membu and kicked DJ Glaze to guard. Do you think that's a legitimate choice?
I think it's a legitimate choice, but
would you say it's less probable?
I don't think they would do it. Do they think
it was what he would do, to be fair? So
yeah.
Like, this is the tough spot, because part of me wants Genty to slip a little bit more, but you're 100% right. Like, I talked about, okay, well, they don't have a massive Super Bowl window, or like they're not going to have a super early Super Bowl window, but they're also, in terms of actual years in the NFL wise, they're pretty limited on the time. They need to do everything they can.
And Jordan Meredith was good last year. Jax Powers Johnson's coming along. They're not going to replace Dylan Parham at the other guard spot. So like, if you're and they signed Alex Kappa. So if you're drafting Armand Membu, I don't really know where DJ Glaze plays.
Yeah, too many cooks in the kitchen kind of thing.
Yeah. I don't think they would do this. Now, it's obviously, Mike was doing it like what he would do, but
I mean, it's an upgrade. So
I'd probably take Mason Graham, to be honest with you.
I'm going to do it because I don't want to hear what you'd have to say about what I do with the Bears at 10.
Okay.
That's where I'm like, all right, let's strategize down the board a little bit. I'll be completely honest.
Jets at 7.
This is not an easy pick either.
I love Tyler Warren, but I think I'd take Membu.
Yeah. Yeah.
because it just totally solidifies their offensive line. It's
100%.
it's it's Fashanu on one side, then it's John Simpson, it's Joe Tippmann, it's AVT, and then you got Armand Membu. I mean,
Mm.
you feel pretty damn good about that starting 5 then. So I
Oh, yeah.
would go Membu at 7. It's close between him and Tyler Warren, but I'd go Membu.
I mean, if you look at the tight end value as well, compared to, I mean, how often it'll probably be used in the offense, I do think that an offensive tackle is going to be a little bit more valuable. I feel
Mhm.
much more comfortable throwing a third round tight end than a third round tackle. I'll put it that way. Is that fair?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
1000%. Yes.
Like if
Yeah.
you have a tackle need and the tackle value's there, I'm a big offensive line guy. Like
You
I'm
take the
100%.
offense. Yes.
Yeah,
Yep. I'm
you
with
take them.
you.
Okay, so for 8 with Carolina, there are a lot of mixed opinions on Jalen Walker. I see that you and I are in between. Like
Mhm.
I'm in that 15 to 30 range. You're in that 30 range as well. And I
Mhm.
see some people have him as high as number 5, right? DJ of all people has him at 5. And I've seen people have him in the 50s. Like I know Jolly Campbell's higher for you,
Mhm.
which of course, again, you look schematically, things will change per team. Like you're talking about big boards for one team versus two teams, gonna be completely different. What are your thoughts on the realism of Jalen Walker going in the top 10? Because I'm hearing Todd McShay say absolute floor pick 9.
Yeah, it feels like we're getting to that point, right? I mean,
Yeah,
like McJay says that DJ has him very high on his board.
right.
Dane has him very high on his board as
Yeah.
well. I think Dane had Jalen Walker number 3 overall at
Oh
one
wow.
point on his big board.
Yeah.
I know Mike Mayock absolutely loves Jalen Walker too. So
Yeah.
it just feels like he's destined for a top 12 overall selection. It feels like
Yeah.
the floor for him is 12 for the Dallas Cowboys, in my opinion.
Mm,
I wouldn't say it's 9, but I would say that 12 would be the floor
like
there.
absolute. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in between on him, right? I
Yeah.
mean, if his best reps come as an edge rusher, and he's
Mm,
just straight up not built like an edge rusher. He's
yeah.
basically like below 10th percentile in height, weight, length
Yep.
for the if you make him just an edge rusher, and then when it comes to off ball work, his instincts just aren't quite there yet, especially in
Mm,
coverage. So there's just a lot of work in progress there for him. I everything I have heard from him, I love the dude. I love that he has a dad who was a defensive coordinator growing up. I mean, he's just
mm,
grown up around the game. He's so smart. He understands the questions he needs to ask. He understands how to make the most out of his talent. So
yeah.
I think the high character of who he is why he is going to be a top 12 lock. But in terms of exactly who he is going to be when he is out there on the field in the NFL, I think he'll be a good football player. So I have him
Mm,
ranked in the 20s. I think
yeah.
he will be a good football player. Will he be an elite football player? I'm not convinced. And maybe this is just a story where I let somebody else draft him, and if he is elite, I'll give somebody a golf clap and a hat tip for drafting him early. So
Speaking of the hat, shout out to NFLSE for having some new merch.
thank you, thank you. I'm still setting up the shop for it. So
Yep.
people who might be watching this, if they're fans of our show as well, they might be yelling at me to get the shop going. I will this week. I'm setting it up this weekend. I will have it by the next time we record the next episode. But we do love these hats, so thank you for shouting.
Yeah, no, I mean, you literally showed it off in your running back and wide receiver video, and I'm like, I was like waiting to see the link, and I'm like, all right, all right. I mean, to be fair, I'm not a guy who looks great in hats. Like, there are some people that can pull off hats better than I do. So I'm like,
Well, you got some silky hair up there.
thank you, dude. I got some
You
flow going on, huh?
You do, yeah.
Dude, I appreciate it. I appreciate it, brother. I have a massive head too, so it doesn't necessarily look like you and I are kind of like opposite. You're saying like
I
you
have a
have this
tiny head,
Dude,
yeah.
I got a one size fits all hat from Villanova when I went to tour it, and
Uh,
it doesn't fit. Like it, I was like, you got to be kidding me. My dumbass didn't try it on in the store, but that was like eons ago. It's like,
you should have
it-
sued him.
I-
One size fits all. Nope, not true.
it's like, listen,
You'll be hearing from
my
my
head's not
lawyer.
that big too, but it's just like, I don't know, my dumbass not actually try on a hat before buying it. I assume the NFLSE hat can accommodate.
It's a snapback, yes.
It's a snapback.
snapback.
We're gonna be
Yeah,
good. We're gonna
yeah.
be good.
We'll be good. We got you. We got you.
All right, you're on the board, my friend.
Saints at number 9. I love Barron here. I think he makes sense.
Mm.
Um,
So as a perimeter corner, I assume.
yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, he can do it all, but as a
yeah,
perimeter corner, I think he can play on the outside. I think Kool-Aid McKinstry's on the other. I think you're playing Alontae Taylor in the slot at that point.
of
You don't
course.
need Tyler Warren. Can we scroll down a little
Yeah.
bit?
You guys go down on
Um,
your board. I love that.
let's see. I
So I've looked at
mm,
Will Johnson before as well. I know that you're higher on Barron. I mean, I guess we all know, but it's like physicality wise and the overall frame, I thought Will Johnson was close. Of course, again, new DC, new head coach, but
I
same
think
ownership.
they will like Will Johnson more.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay. So
I
I
think
feel a little
they will
switchy.
like Will Johnson more. So
Okay.
you're right on there.
Okay.
Um,
I'm taking that to the bank. I'm saving that clip.
yeah.
I'm justifying it to all my Saints fans out there. But I mean, for this pick, do you think it's completely out of the question that Kellen Moore, the lover of tight ends, goes with Tyler Warren and signed Jawan Johnson as a risk mitigation move for him going earlier?
I don't know. They have Foster Moreau too.
It's true.
Um, Obviously Taysom Hill's like that ultimate, like, can play a bunch of different stuff. I don't
Right.
think draft Tyler Warren.
Yeah,
Although, man, the Saints always zig when everyone thinks they're gonna zag.
this is true.
They
They haven't been doing a good job of like zigging or zagging so far. I must admit, like early on with some of these picks, went a
Yeah.
little bit out of left field.
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna take Mike Green here at 9. I think he's good enough to be picked here at number 9. I
Yeah,
just have no idea where he gets drafted with the off the field stuff. I don't
yeah.
know where teams are on that. I
Mm,
don't know what sort of investigating process they're going into. What happened with him when he was in high school and
yeah.
at
UVA.
Virginia, and why he got dismissed from the team. Or I don't know. I thought that we would learn a lot more after the combine, and we really have not. And
Okay.
so I think he's a top 15 talent in this draft. And I think that the Saints, Carl Granderson, Cameron Jordan,
Mhm.
Isaiah Foskey, Chase Young,
Yeah,
you got to be way better at pass rusher.
yeah.
All of these guys are good in theory, but it's in theory. I think Mike Green's good in actuality. So I'll take him at 9.
Damn, that's a boss ass line right there. You just dropped a one liner. All these guys are good in theory. Mike Green is good in actuality. I like
He
it.
is.
Yeah.
He is.
I mean, he's a
All right.
freak.
All right. So what are you doing with Chicago at 10?
Okay, I was gonna have Genty go at 6, and then I'm a big Amari and Hampton guy. I think that similar to when people think that the
Oh,
Saints are gonna zig, I think Ben Johnson's the type to zag. So that's why I'm like, I mean, also, if I'm not mistaken, was DeAndre Swift on the Lions when they ended up bringing on Jameer, or was he the one to just kick DeAndre off the squad when they
I
brought on?
think no. I think DeAndre Swift was there
Yeah.
when they drafted Jameer Gibbs, if I remember correctly.
So he could end up being addicted to DeAndre again, which would be interesting. That'd be a really interesting record there. But I mean, I don't know where you're at in terms of not with Amari and Hampton. I know that you're lower on him noticeably than I
Mhm.
am. And that's I mean, again, that's the beauty of this. We all watch the same tape, come away with different opinions. I respect your opinion like 100%. So that's why I obviously like to have this discourse with you. But when it comes to like the Bears, I had that theory that I was talking about earlier in terms of the window of like actual competition. And I think the Bears, like floor wise, with the coaching they have and what they've done, they really are gearing to be within 1 to 2 draft cycles of being legitimately competitive. So that's why it justifies it to me to go running back early.
Oh, I mean, they already have the roster.
Yeah,
I
that's what
mean,
I'm saying.
they don't even need 1 to 2 draft cycles. Like
Yeah,
they basically need 1 to 2 picks at this
right.
point to hit. If
Exactly.
they have picks, they have pick 10, they have pick 39, they have pick 41.
Which is
If
insane.
you nail 2 out of those 3 picks,
Yeah.
this this should no excuses about it
Yeah.
be a playoff team.
Yeah.
No excuses about it if they nail 2 of those 3 picks.
So with that reasoning, I'm going to be going Ashton Genty here. I
Yeah,
do. Yeah. I
I get
mean,
yeah.
it
I
just
think it's
makes
perfect.
sense. Puzzle
Yep.
piece. But if they go Amari and Hampton, I know you're going to have a lower grade on it, but do you think this is one of his best spots for success?
Oh, totally.
Okay.
Just because it makes sense with the offensive line the way that it's now currently constructed. I think the same about why I justify the Genty pick at number 10.
Right.
And if it's Omari instead of Genty, I
Not
some
over Genty. If
no,
Genty's
no,
gone.
no. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, right. I'm saying like if it happens to be Omari and Hampton
Yeah.
here, Genty goes 6, they pick Hampton
Yeah.
at 10. Again, even though I think that I would rather pick, like, for example, in this spot,
Yeah.
I would rather pick Tyler Warren if I'm the Bears
Ooh.
than Omari and Hampton. Like
Ooh.
I think this, like, the
Yeah.
way that the board sort of fell
Right.
here, to me, you're either picking Tyler Warren or you're picking or Ashton Genty, in my
Right.
opinion. And if it's not Ashton Genty here, you're taking one of those running backs I already listed earlier in the show at
Yeah.
39 and 41, and you're feeling pretty good about it.
Is
So,
your reasoning for Warren primarily just because, like, first off, tight ends always help, like, good tight end relief valves are always great for
mhm.
quarterbacks to have that, but like blocking, etc. Is it just primarily due to an upgrade in talent at the tight end position, or do you think that there's a broader argument that is just outside of over upgrading?
No, I think that
It's,
I think it's all the above. I think
yeah,
that you could upgrade the position. I think he's immediately tight end 1 on the team.
yeah,
All due respect to Cole Kmet, but then you have a situation where now if you go heavy personnel, you have 2 tight ends that you feel really good about.
mm,
I don't know if you caught the episode on NFLSE with Brett Coleman and EJ Snyder when I took Tyler Warren for the Raiders at 6, and
I did not see
the reason why my justification for it
that.
was that if you draft Tyler Warren, he now becomes sort of that tight end 1 on your team. It
Blocking
frees Brock Bowers up to
slot
be used as an X
as
receiver,
X, yeah.
mainly as a slot receiver, and then when you
Mm,
go heavy personnel, you have 2 tight ends that you feel excellent about in all blocking situations and in all receiving situations for play action and all that kinds of stuff.
hmm,
You become unbelievably versatile if you had a tight end room of Tyler Warren and Brock Bowers. And Raiders fans told me they would rather jump off a bridge than have Tyler Warren be the pick at number 6. So loud and
yeah,
clear, I didn't make that again for our other mock draft, but
yeah,
that's sort of I
huh,
see it somewhat similarly with the Bears is like he shouldn't be off their board. And I don't think he's going to be if you listen to the way that Ben Johnson talked about how Tyler Warren changes the game for you on offense.
mm.
That's the type of player that I would think about here. So yeah,
I like
I
that. I like that. That's a good justification. I mean, of all ways to justify it, that's the one where it's like I understand it. Even for the Raiders, for that matter. I mean, I know that there's gonna be some Michael Mayer super fans out there. They're gonna
Well,
stick them in the
my
fingers.
whole point was I think they're trading him, right?
Mm,
They've been shopping him for over a year.
right.
So I said that in the theory, you're only doing this if you think you're moving on from Michael Mayer, and it
Gotcha.
sure as hell feels like they're going to trade Michael Mayer during draft weekend. That's what it feels
Yeah.
like to me.
Okay.
And I think the reason why they haven't traded Michael Mayer yet is because the tight end class is so good that nobody wants to give up draft capital for Michael Mayer because they're
Mm,
just going to wait to see if they get one of these rookies they really like to fall to them probably
right.
in the 3rd or 4th round. But if they don't, they'll probably trade a 5th round pick to the Raiders for Mayer.
That's a hundred
And that,
percent a Philly thing to do with 3/5.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's
I mean, they
true.
have 3/5. How he's gonna do something with it. That's
Yeah,
intriguing.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, I know. Well, Brett and I are gonna be doing some, like, he's usually comes on for a mock draft. Sorry to spoil it to my viewers out there. Shout out to the Bootleg podcast as well.
yeah.
Great dudes, but we're gonna be doing some work with him after the draft season. But no, that's great. That's great overall. I like that. That's good justification.
It's just and like I maybe didn't say it as much as I needed to, like, during the pod.
Sure.
I absolutely understand the Raiders team needs a wide receiver, corner, defensive tackle, like all this. Tet was off the board at the time.
Yeah.
Mason Graham was not. He was still there. That was the one that people were mad about.
Mm,
And then obviously like Will Johnson and Johnny Barron was still on the board.
yeah.
I think they could have picked, one of Will Campbell or Amar Mambu. So like all of this was
Mm.
still there. Ashton Genty Ashton Genty wasn't there because he went
Oh.
Brett picked him to the Jags at 5. So
Oh
it was just
man.
like it was a scenario that I had not thought about before and kind of
Yeah.
just explored it and the logic of it. But
Huh.
not saying it will happen. I just think that that's sort of what mock drafts are about.
They're fun.
You want to try to
Yeah, you test out new
explore
theories.
some different
Yeah.
opportunities. So, anyways,
Huh. I
I'm
like
up
it.
at 11
Yes,
with
sir.
the Niners. I think I think Kelvin Banks Jr. needs to be the pick here for the Niners.
Yeah.
He can immediately start at left guard for them. He can become their tackle of the future. Shoot, he can even, in my opinion, probably play right tackle for you if you want an upgrade over Colton McKivitz. I just think that probably makes the most sense for them. I think Simmons is more of a tackle only type of a player, and Kelvin
Mm.
Banks Jr. at least gives you that ability to play him at guard
Yeah.
and then move him to tackle when you need to, whenever Trent Williams is done, or if you want an upgrade over McKivitz. So I think they basically have to go O line here, and Kelvin
Mm.
Banks is a really good option for them at 11.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a ton of sense. That instant impact at guard. I had the Niners in my most recent mock draft trade up to select Armand Membu. Just,
Nice.
I mean, it just I love the fit. Again, like you can end up putting Membu at guard, and he has some technical things. I think you'll agree with me that he needs to still fine tweak here and there, which is why I actually like him going to the Jets because I think Foshnu also has some things that he's working on, and both of them are hyper athletic. So I think that's a good trajectory there. But for the Niners, I mean, I just love it. Do you know like the scouting director for the Niners, RJ Gillen?
I don't know him personally,
Okay.
no.
He's the guy who got me into the draft. Like that was
Nice.
yeah,
That's
he was
cool.
yeah, no, he's such a good guy. Like so shout
That's
out to
awesome.
him as well. But yeah, I mean, he was somebody who I ended up texting saying that you'd love Arianti Ursary at like during preseason time. I'm like, you're gonna love this guy.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it ended up evolving to Arbon Membu is the guy. I'm like, okay.
Sure.
Like
Yeah. I can see that
like
too.
I just love it. But Cowboys at 12, man. I mean, talk about a multitude of ways to go about this. I do think that the dark horse pick is if Calvin Banks is here, like how often Dallas goes offensive line, kick
Mhm.
Tyler Guyton to right tackle, like back to where he was. And
Mhm.
then, you can end up solving two birds with one stone. But Mike ended up taking Jahdae Barron, and it's an intriguing option to potentially solidify your corner core. I just don't know if an NFL team would do that at pick 12. Do
I
you
don't
think?
think they would.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think a nickel would value, especially the Jerry of. I mean, I know Jerry's not the one who's the primary decision maker all the time, but it's like a nickel at 12 is just as much as I love him. You'd have to justify it for the boundary. Would you agree?
Yeah. And they're already paying. I don't know Trayvon Diggs' contract off the top of my head,
Yeah.
but they're about to pay Deron Bland a lot of money.
Right. Right.
Um, maybe that what's Trayvon Diggs' contract? Let's see. I
Uh,
don't think they would draft him at 12 just to play nickel. No.
right. You'd want there to
I don't
be
hate the idea of it,
right.
but I don't think they would do it. So, this is the last year where Diggs has guaranteed money left on the deal.
Right.
So, in the last 3 years of his contract are very flexible.
Yeah.
So, maybe they could get ahead of that, and I think,
Mhm.
like, to Mike's credit, I guess, like, in theory, you would have a nasty cornerback trio, and then after this year, you feel fully flexible to do whatever you need to do with Diggs.
Mhm.
Um, so I think that I guess in that aspect of getting ahead of the corner need,
Yeah.
you could, but yeah, anyways.
I think that I am debating going after someone who has been a Texas merchant going from Houston to Austin, now to Dallas with Matt Golden. And with their new QB1, Joe Milton in the building. Can you imagine the preseason games where Joe Milton's throwing a 90-yard pass to Matt Golden in like the fourth quarter? Like that'd be fucking ludicrous. I'd be there for that. I mean, literally, I live in Dallas, so of course I'll be there for that. But I mean, I just don't really see a ton of. I know that we've talked about potential linebacker fit as well. I know Jahad Campbell could be, I assume, on your radar for this
Yeah,
pick.
yeah.
Could you elaborate on that a little bit? Because I know they've addressed it like
Well,
somewhat.
I think that my leaning towards Jahad Campbell at number 12 was really before they acquired Jack Sanborn and
Right.
Kenneth Murray.
Right.
Now I
Okay.
think
That's
they've
what.
done enough to where they feel like they can get by and they don't have
Gotcha.
to pick him at number 12.
But with Jalen Walker, you're saying that's the floor because the NFL perceives him to be that talented to where it would be
Yes, I think
above
so.
what they have done. Okay,
I think
that's why I was thinking. I just wanted to double check on that.
Yep.
Um, honestly, I don't think there's a bad move the Cowboys can make here. Like you can really select whatever player that you want. I'm gonna go Matt Golden because I do think speed counts.
I think they'll be very in on him.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense as well. I mean, boundary threat literally earned the wide receiver one spot. Granted, there was some injury involved, but he really did earn it there at UT, and so I'm gonna give him the credit.
I think I'd take Malachi Starks here for the Dolphins.
Yeah,
Losing Javon Holland, and it didn't feel like they were ever really going to re-sign him, and then not really making a splash signing to replace him. Malachi can do so many things for you. He can play free. He can play strong. He can play in the
Mhm.
slot. I think that we're looking at this past year with Malachi Starks, and I think we're being a little bit harsh with him. I still think he is one of the best football players in this class.
Yeah,
You aren't the impactful underclassman that he was as a freshman and sophomore for defenses as talented as the ones that we saw at Georgia over the last 2 years. Just,
Mhm.
because you're lucky. You're a really damn good football player,
Right.
and I think he's going to be an excellent pro. So Malachi Starks to Miami. I don't know if they will actually make this pick, but I like this one a lot for them.
I really like it too. And this just popped into my head. Would you almost say this is kind of like the Derek Stingley of the safety position, where Derek Stingley kind of had a really, really good early career at
Yeah.
LSU, and
Yes.
then like
Yes.
that last year was like, of course, there was the injury on top of it. Okay, so that was just something that popped in my head. I'm like, man, this feels like a similar narrative to before. For the Colts, I'm gonna keep this short and sweet. If you really want to build up with AR and give him the best chance, give him somebody that can catch anything. Tyler
Mhm.
Warren's a guy.
Yep.
Short and sweet.
Yep. Yep. I think that is if Tyler Warren is on the board for the Colts, it's a sprinted in kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I don't think that I liked Jahdae Barron for them before, but then when they added Charvarius Ward and Cam Bynum, I feel like that does enough there at that spot. So
Sure.
maybe pass rusher, maybe linebacker. You know, you could go Jahad Campbell because they're losing EJ Speed, but I think it's much more likely that they would go Tyler Warren or Colson Loveland in this spot.
Yeah.
This is a Jihad Campbell spot for me at number 15.
Yep.
I think Jahdae Barron also makes sense for Raheem Morris's off cover 3 type of coverage scheme. Him and AJ Terrell are a really nice duo there, but they brought back Mike Hughes, and it wasn't just chump change that they signed Mike Hughes to. I
Right.
think depending on how they feel about Clark Phillips being their full-time nickel, I mean, I could understand sort of setting up what Mike did with Dallas. You're sort of setting that up with the Falcons as well. They need defensive back help.
Mm.
You could get Jahdae Barron. He could play safety for you. He could play slot. He could play on the outside.
Would you say the same thing about Will Johnson for that matter as well?
Will Johnson's less versatile,
Sure.
but could be just as impactful as an outside corner if they
Right.
really wanted an outside corner. I think all 3 of those guys are on the table. It's hard because for as much as I think they need pass rusher,
Mm.
I think that the drop off at corner and linebacker is much more steep in this draft class.
Yeah.
So I would go with one of these 3 guys.
Mm.
Let's go Campbell here. Let's go
Yeah.
Jihad. Yeah, yep. I think they would love that second level defender to really anchor a lot of what they're trying to build around.
Well, there's a lot of flexibility with Campbell as well as a pass rusher too that I love, that you kind of get kind of 2 birds with 1 stone, and it's not, one player who can't play 2 positions. It's one player who could play 1 position really well and has a lot of upside at another. I think you would agree.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. He has a lot of versatility to him.
All right, for the Cardinals, again, something I'm going to keep relatively short and sweet for time's sake. I don't want to drive you into the 2-hour mark like we were talking about, but I'm going to go Will Johnson here. I've been wanting a big physical boundary corner for the Cardinals for a hot minute. A lot of the guys they have are like 5'3" in an attitude. If you've seen that TikTok out there, it's just like,
Yeah, indeed.
You got to get some big physicality in there, and 6'2", 6'1" and like a half, if I'm not mistaken, and has those pick sixes on record. Like, this guy does have a ton. If he had a better year this year, people would be talking about him probably as a top 5 pick. But it was a little bit more of a down year, beat up, and he ends up being Gannon's new toy.
Yeah. I think that this is one that I go with quite a bit, so I can totally understand this here.
Yeah.
Bengals at 17. Which offensive lineman do we have available?
Pretty much everything except for
Mm.
Banks and Membu and Campbell for that matter.
I like Zabel here.
Mm.
I could also go interior defensive line. And
Okay.
then I think Barron could also play safety for them, which they very much need.
There is that. I mean, I know that Al Golden's going to utilize. I mean, I just debate if they're going to go after Ben Morrison, who's sliding, because Al Golden would not here.
Or Xavier Watts, one of the 2.
Right. Like,
I think he can come away with one of those 2 players.
Right.
Signed TJ Slayton. They have Chris Jenkins Jr. They have BJ Hill. Need a pass rusher, but I don't know how much they're going to be in on James Pierce Jr.
Mm. Do you genuinely believe that James Pierce is also going to slip noticeably because of
Yeah,
the
I mean, it seems like it.
Yeah.
It seems like it.
I mean, I feel like every year there's this guy who's labeled as a coaching concern who falls out of the first that we think are almost lock ones. And this is the most publicized I've ever seen it. Like, last year was Johnny Newton, where a couple blips came up.
Right.
Like,
And I love Johnny Newton.
I know. he's doing good. I mean, like
Right.
he's earned it.
I thought
So
it was silly.
yeah, like what I normally do for the Bengals, and feel free to push back and tell me I'm an idiot. I think that Michael Williams, based on the reality of him potentially going higher, is potentially likely because he is almost an upgraded version of RJ Open. So he'd play a similar role in Al Golden's
Oh,
defense.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I try to blend some realism in with some of the things that I do, even though I also have him a little bit lower than what people are saying he should go. What do you decide between?
Give me Donovan Ezeraku.
Ezraku,
Yeah,
hello.
yeah, give me him instead. I just have more faith that, I just love how he understands the game, man. He
Yeah.
just understands the why of what is successful,
Mhm.
and, it was so much better of a run defender than you would expect for a player of his size. Understands how to use leverage. He has the long arms to him. So many different pass rush moves. Very productive football player last year.
Yeah.
Um, I I don't know if the Bengals will pick him over a guy like Micah Williams or maybe an interior offensive lineman, but I am here in this mock.
I mean, I respect it. Like edge rusher, I do think is a position they need to start focusing on. I'm a sucker for Miles Murphy, but I think it's no longer ignorance, it's arrogance if you continue saying we're going to ignore a problem because of something that hasn't worked.
Yeah.
Like it's like, okay, well, you know what? Best case scenario, you end up having 3 legitimate edge rushers. Worst case scenario, you end up having 2 in this situation. So I think that you're in a good spot regardless. But for Seattle, I love the idea of when Jahad Campbell slips to him because I just love the idea of McDonald, having a
Mm,
super weapon there, Jahad Campbell.
yeah.
But did not happen, thanks to you. So screw you. But um,
Well,
but anyways,
good football player.
he is a damn good football player. I'm gonna look potentially. So I remember you ended up talking about how Josh Simmons, you don't really trust a kick to the interior. For me,
No, I don't know about don't trust. I think I look at how Banks plays and I feel like it's more translatable to the inside. I'm not saying
mm,
Josh Simmons can't do it, but
right,
I think that he's more of like he's a true offensive tackle in this class.
fair enough. And what I love about Josh Simmons is 2 years ago he played right tackle, not well, but he has experience at right tackle,
Mhm.
and because of that, I personally feel a little bit more comfortable with this translatability to the inside of the offensive line. I think I have a short-term fill similar to what we did with the Niners with Kelvin Banks. I'm going to do the same thing here with the Seahawks with Josh Simmons and fill an internal need in the short term and allow him to cross-train as a right tackle if/when you end up having some injury bugs.
Mhm. Okay, Bucks at 19. Um
Jody's slipping, man.
yeah,
Technically.
and I think that this is I don't think they're going to take a corner at 19.
Right.
Um Jason Light's MO has always been corners on day 2.
Mm.
That's where he takes corners. Outside of Vernon Hargraves, and I think he got burned on Vernon, and he's like, "Okay, no."
All done.
I think Jade is a really good football player, though. I think he's great as a cover 3 player. I think he could play however Todd Bowles really wants him to play. So I'm gonna pick him here.
Mm.
Corner's a massive need for this team. And whether it's whether he's starting as an outside corner over a guy like Jamel Dean right away, or whether he's starting on the other side, or it's a rotational thing. I mean, like they just need good outside corner options. So I'll go Barron here at number 19.
Yeah, I remember back in the day when I think it was an episode with Palazzolo and Mike Renner. They were just basically talking about how you can never have too many corners. And that's always stuck with me, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Always
I think
stuck
it's
with me.
true. I think it's true.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. Injuries happen, guys fluctuate. It just happens. So, Jahdae Barron, great player right there. At 20 for the Broncos, I mean, I was talking about Amarian at 10. I
Mhm.
personally have a lot of faith in the guy. I also think that the Broncos are in a situation where they would love the pass pro on top of just the ability to bounce off contact. My MO for Amarian Hampton is that he is the best player to turn a negative into a neutral or a positive. A lot of times I saw him getting hit in the backfield, and I'm like, how the hell did he get back to the line of scrimmage? So I love that ability as just, consistency, but this class is so good. I mean, it's just damn good. And of course, I would have loved him to my Steelers at 21, but that shows you that I'm not biased.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Hey, if you would have picked him at 10, then it totally makes sense why you're picking him there at 20.
This is
So the
true.
Steelers at 21, Aaron Rodgers still hasn't signed. He's not in hand. Um, they traded for DK Metcalf. They signed Darius Slay. They have Joey Porter Jr. Could go safety, but Malachi Starks isn't there.
Mm.
Um, I love Luther Burden, but I don't think he would be a pick there.
We technically have Shadur out there. I'm gonna say
I
that
would
that's
I wouldn't pick Shador over the guys who are still on the board. So
okay. I just
he,
wanted to clarify.
yeah, he's not in the conversation for me right
Mm.
now. Um, I think he is more of a day 2 quarterback than a day 1 quarterback.
I have him in the same range as you, so I
Uh,
understand.
let's pick Kenneth Grant here. I think Kenneth Grant is different than like a Larry Ogunjobi and
Right.
and even Keanu Benton. And I
Mhm.
think for man, Cam Hayward's still doing it at his age. It's unbelievable, but he can't do it forever. And if you get a guy like Kenneth Grant, you just feel great about your interior defensive line rotation, no matter what it is.
Oh, yeah. I mean, with KG, I know that the ceiling is so high. The kid still has so much to learn too, but who better to learn from than guys like Cam Hayward?
Yeah,
Like,
100%.
you give him his
Yep.
best shot. And the Steelers, if I know anything as being a Steelers fan, we always develop our guys and we develop them well. So I'm really happy with that one. Even though I'm a little bit lower on KG, but it's like for my Steelers, I have a lot more faith. Talking about that margin of error thing.
Mhm.
22 for the Chargers. Honestly, I really wish Ezraku were here. That's like my primary go-to guy because,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
like I always think that a double, when you're in need, sometimes a double is better than trying to swing for a home run. And that's kind of what I do believe Ezraku. He's just the definition of you're going to work, which to be fair for the Bengals makes a lot of sense. So I'll give some credit to you on that one. But Michael Williams is somebody that I could totally see being an intriguing choice for this team. I just don't know if Harbaugh could say no to Loveland. I mean,
Yeah,
it's tough.
sure.
It's just you can't really say no to him. And apparently, people have Loveland above Tyler Warren in some instances as well. It just are you looking up the tight end core for LA?
I am.
Yeah,
Tyler Conklin, Will Dissly, Tucker Fisk.
yeah. I think that
That's
just
about it.
solidifies it, man. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
after Colson Loveland here.
This one's tough because, Mykel Williams, Shamar Stewart, James Pierce, they're all still on the board.
Right.
The Packers need to get a lot better at rushing the passer, especially from the edge spots. But their corner need is just so glaring, especially if you think that Jair Alexander is going to get traded at some point, which it feels like he is.
Hmm.
I will. I
Draft
mean,
spot.
I think that Trey Amos and Savone Revel would be excellent picks for this team. Excellent picks. Okay, hold on. Let me look up how dire this is.
I mean,
So
they got
if
Keyshawn Nixon, but
if Alexander's not on this team anymore, it's Keyshawn Nixon, it's Kamal Haddon, it's Carrington Valentine, and they just signed Nate Hobbs to play the slot. But they didn't really give him a lot of guaranteed money, which I was kind of
no.
surprised about.
Yeah, me too.
Um, if they're trading Jair, I basically think that you have to draft a cornerback.
I agree. What percentage wise do you think it's a trade situation for Jair?
60-65.
Yeah, that's a pretty big percentage. But do you
I think
think
it's just from the way that they talk about him, and man,
right?
it's so frustrating having a number 1 corner who just isn't healthy,
Mhm.
especially when you're in an arms race in that division.
Yeah, this is true.
Um, let's go with Savone Rebel. I know he's a little bit lower than where Trey Amos is. When I do my final big board, he'll be a little bit higher. I think that him and Amos would be excellent picks, but I think
Yeah.
Rebel is the one that makes a lot of sense for Green Bay, especially their thresholds.
I mean, I think he'll work well with Halfley as well. I mean, you think he's basically like a better version of what was it, Elijah Jones that Halfley
Oh,
had
yeah, yeah,
over
yeah.
at BC. Like,
Mhm.
I personally think that you're getting a souped up version of that, which already did work back at BC. 24 for Minnesota, a lot of good options. You can't really necessarily go wrong. Uh, the guys who I would like narrow this down to. Honestly, I would still look at boundary corner with Trey Amos. Like, I am a little bit intrigued with the physicality there, but
You know who I'd actually take here?
who would you take?
I'd I'd take Xavier Watts.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
he's good. He's really, really good. But who
So
else? Were you gonna say Imanwari?
yeah, I was gonna say Floor is using Eamon Wari as a chess piece. I mean, I think Nick needs to be in the right system where he cannot play against the run as the primary defender. You are absolutely fucked if this guy's going one-on-one as a run defender off the bat with no help.
Yeah.
Like, you're screwed.
I don't love Imanwari.
I'm a little bit more on the opposite side of the equation, but
Where you love him?
I love him in certain instances.
Then then you should take him here, because with Flores, I mean, you have the I don't want to convince you out of this pick. I'd take Xavier Watts over Imanwari very clearly, because I have him over him on the big board there. But but this is what you would do, so do not let me talk you out of it if you are a big Imanwari guy.
See, the thing is, I dropped one of my best one-liners of all time, because I think at 23 it was Jade Barron. And I was like, okay, well, this whole entire corner core I did the 5'3" and an attitude thing for them too. Yeah. And then I ended up seeing Imanwari for the Vikings at 24, and I said, this guy's 6'3" and a fucking beast. So it's like, I almost have to do it for the branding. So you wore the hat on the show. I'm gonna wear the Nick Imanwari hat on this pick. We're gonna go with him at 24. Do you think they genuinely have faith in their O-line? I know that Tunsil was more so of a culture removal, but do they believe in it? Like,
I would take Gray Zabel here.
Yeah.
I don't know where he would play, but he would start. That's my thought. Yeah. Is that I don't know where he's going to play for them. I don't know if he'll start at center over Jaret Patterson. I don't know if he'll start at guard over Juice Scruggs and Ed Ingram. I don't know if he would start at left guard over Laken Tomlinson. I don't know if he'd start at offensive tackle over Blake Fisher or Titus Howard or Cam Robinson, but he will start. And anytime you can tell yourself you're getting a starting offensive lineman on a team that desperately needs it, you got to do it.
Yeah. Just like a lot of people are like a little bit afraid of the lack of tackle flexibility. Like, would you value someone like Josh Conerly similarly because of a little bit more?
Yeah, I liked Blake Fisher when he was coming out of Notre Dame. I like what he could develop into. I think Titus Howard is fine at offensive tackle, and I don't think Cam Robinson's the worst. So I think that you're a lot more comfortable at offensive tackle with the guys that you have on the roster than the either the young guys or the castaways that you have filled out on your interior. So that's why I feel I don't really have to worry about the offensive tackle flexibility with Gray Zabel, because I think that he just commands one of those interior spots.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go supercharged for the Rams. A lot of people like to go quarterback here. I mean, technically you have Shedeur Sanders. That'd be kind of nuts. But I don't think that Matt Stafford would have come back over going to an alternate team if he ended up truly he wouldn't come back unless the Rams were saying, we're going to maximize the years that you have left. And you got Devontae Adams on there. You got Puka Nacua. Outside of that, I know you got 1-year deal on Tutu. I just see Luther Burden here. And why not have an embarrassment of riches? There's a certain point where you just have to say the return on investment is unbelievably positive, and you give yourself the best shot. And best player available rarely fails. So I'm going to go after Luther.
Okay. That sounds good. I am a Luther Burden guy.
Yes, you
are. You don't have to convince me of that. I think he is one of the top 20 players in this class. So,
yeah. No, I mean, I love the fit too. On top of that, I would have went Trey Amos if he weren't there, just because I love Trey Amos too. You and I are on the same page for that one.
Man, for the Ravens,
good choices all around.
I think I'm gonna take Emeka Egbuka. He's basically everything that you've wanted Rashad Bateman to be. I don't factor DeAndre Hopkins into the equation at all whatsoever.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the guys on the roster, it's Tyler Wallace, who I like, but he's not going to be a wide receiver 1, 2, or 3 for you. Tez Walker, who's basically just a vertical threat. Deontay Johnson, who's on like his 8th team in 3 weeks.
I just ended up processing that. That's funny.
I'm taking Emeka Egbuka here, and he's going to be the 1-2 with Zay Flowers.
Honestly, you can never go wrong with Egbuka. He's just the definition of consistency. He's like the Donovan Ezeraku of wide receivers in this class, I would say.
Yeah.
Is that fair? Like,
yes, actually, I think that's actually a pretty decent parallel that you just made there.
Thank you. I pulled that out of my ass. But at number 20. At number 28, man, some really good options on the board here for Detroit.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't really go wrong. For me, I'm looking at Michael and Shamar. I just don't think I could, with a clean conscience, end up letting them continue to fall. Like, knowing how like where they're supposed to go. I think Michael is just too attractive. As he got healthier, he got better. That's the route that I'm going to go.
Yeah, I think I'm picking just whichever one you didn't between Michael Williams and Shamar Stewart. Um, you could think about running back here if Omarion Hampton was still on the board. He's not. They upgraded the offensive line. Edge rusher, they need to get better. I think they need better pass rusher, but they also have to defend the run a lot better than what they did the previous season. Shamar Stewart at least gave you a near elite run defense grade last year. So even if he doesn't develop into the pass rusher you want, he's strong enough and he's big enough to be able to defend the run much better than they did last season. So I'll go Shamar Stewart here for the Commanders.
I like that. All right, number 30 for the Bills. Walter Nolan's an intriguing option here. I know that defensive interior is far from solved in the long term. Walter Nolan needs a bit more development, and he already showed at the Senior Bowl that he has all the potential in the world. I think that that's just the safest bet. Outside of that, I know a lot of people are kind of clamoring for a boundary corner as well with Benford there. Trey Amos, what are your thoughts on him being their corner 2?
Love it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. I mean, Amos is somebody who he didn't start when he was at Alabama, but he started this year when he was at Ole Miss, and he, in my opinion, was excellent. I mean, he's got the arm length to be able to play press. He had pretty good instincts when he was in off. He had the athleticism to be able to play in man coverage situations. Really high force and completion rate, which is a stable metric that we love to lean on for the cornerback position. He's got good ball skills as well, and he's not too bad of a tackler. So to me, if he is your CB2, you're living right. Like, you're happy with the 2 duos that you have on the outside. So
I like that too.
I made this pick for them like 4 months ago, and I got yelled at a lot. They're like, "It's not a corner," and I was like, "It needs to be." And this is before Kaiir Elam looked so unplayable that they had to trade him. So, like, I guess, I was a little bit ahead of the curve there, but the fact that Elam hadn't developed into the guy who was a starter for them anyways, I was just reading the tea leaves. I was like, you're going to need a starting cornerback. So I don't know if they do it in the first round because they could go defensive line, but I think Amos and Benford would be an excellent one too.
I agree. And on top of that, I mean, you ended up mentioning it earlier, the fall off at corner. It's a bit steeper, especially than even defensive interior, right? Like, you can end up getting somebody like, worst case scenario, CJ West, probably via trade back in, like, out of the second into the third. Like, you have options. I love CJ West. I like to plug him wherever I can.
The Chiefs at 31, where I hate the fact that we're so pigeonholed into offensive line for them at the back end of the first round. Right. The fact of the matter is that the conversation is very similar to the one that you just brought up with corner and with linebacker. If you were to take a defensive lineman here, which I think the Chiefs should consider, both interior and edge rushers, because there's some good ones on the board. Walter Nolan is here. James Pierce Jr. is here. Derek Harmon is here. Nick Scorton is here. Darius Alexander. All of these guys, excellent selections for the Kansas City Chiefs. Right. If you were to take one of these guys at 31, you're not going to be pumped at who's left for you at offensive line as the draft goes on. But if you take Josh Connerly Jr. at 31, then I think you could feel pretty good about some of the defensive linemen that are still in this class a little bit later. So draft strategy in to play here, I would go Josh Connerly Jr.
I mean, like we were talking about earlier, you feel a lot more comfortable with a like early third, late second edge rusher, defensive interior starting than that at a tackle. So, and Connerly's he's no scrub. I think we agree. No, he's not a scrub.
He needs development still, but he took a leap this year. So I was very encouraged by that.
It is an upgrade. That's the thing over Jalen Moore. It's a start. It's a start. At 32 for the Eagles, I mean, tell me that Walter Nolan's not a perfect Milt replacement.
100%. I mean, it's to a T.
It's the pick. I mean, you have to do what you have to do. The dream is maybe Malachi Starks falls there, but I think you and I both know that's not happening. So with the pipe dream out of the way, you just have to go after the player that fits the best, and very similar measurables to what he was this past year, Milt Williams, not out of La Tech, but still. Great pick, nonetheless, great fit, and honestly something that Philly, especially with Jordan Davis coming up on a contract extension, they need more and more reinforcements on the defensive line to not have to get a need. So that's going to be it. Thank you so much for coming on, Trev. It was really fun.
Of course, man. This is great. I always love running through mock drafts. It's always fun to do these mock draft exercises with someone else as well, because you get to create scenarios that you don't think of yourself. So I appreciate you having me on the show.